thing, and then I'll share my screen. So welcome everyone. I'm so glad to see so many faces, so many people on our presentation today. We're going to talk cover letters. There we go. Get that little guy rolling. And that's there. That's good. Whoop. Where'd my peeps go? I need that screen. There we go. And then we'll do the chat so I can see that going on. I'll just talk through that so that you all know exactly what I'm doing where. Yay! So today's cover letters, we did this, of course, on Tuesday as well, and what we got through it pretty quickly. So I'll just tell you that we probably will get through it quickly, and we even at the end did some hands-on stuff like we do in class. So keep in mind that this presentation, of course, is designed to be used with job seekers. But when I created this, I was using it in the computer lab with clients. So the idea was that I would tell them all about the cover letter and how to write it, and then they would actually get busy doing it on the computer. So that's what you'll see is at the end, we kind of move to the computer part, and you will find in your invite, your meeting invite, that there were a couple of attachments, of course. I'll show you those as we get to those. And also one of those is a sample resume to play with, and we'll open that and play with it at the end. Very exciting. So the first slide, what do we need a cover letter for? I like to kind of start at the beginning here with the puzzle pieces, because even though this really structurally moves right along, because we all started with job search and we talked about online profiles and we talked about our elevator pitch, and then we went right into resumes, but our job seekers that are taking this might not have seen those other presentations. So I like to bring that together and explain to them how important all of those things are. The social media profiles, making sure that our online presence is positive out there. Google yourself, see what others are going to see. Your elevator pitch that you're going to create, that 2 to 4 minute conversation that you can have with anybody when you run into them, and let them know what your job search goals are, what your career goals are, what kind of a job you're looking for, and to be able to ask that person for advice on how you might be successful in getting a job. And of course, your resume is the best way to show all of your skills and your abilities and your experiences. But also all of those things come together really well with the cover letter. And it really is like a puzzle piece, because we get to use the cover letter to say our elevator speech in writing to that employer and hand it off with our resume. And of course, we can put our online profile on the resume. We could also put it on our cover letter if it's going to sell you, if it's going to be positive and work for you. I would suggest putting it on there, and then that further tied it together. So cover letter, it gives us an opportunity to introduce ourselves, to sell what we have to offer, to let them find out how professional and competent we are, which, by the way we write our cover letter shows if we're professional or not, if we have those communication skills and can produce a professional document. And hopefully it'll make them want more so that we'll get the interview. This slide here works really well for clients as kind of a checklist. So I go through all of them and make sure that they have the slide handouts. When maybe worthy of noting as well, when I print the slide handouts for presentations, I'm sure that when you go to presentations, you've seen many times the 3-slide handout. It has a slide with the lines on the side to take notes, and then another slide. That's good for most. On this cover letter one, I really like to print just 2 slides. So it doesn't give you the notes section on the side. It's just a bigger version of the slides. That way they can see, you'll see some of these slides, it really pays to have them be a little bit bigger on the page. So I just point out to them that you can use this as a checklist, and you'll find it in your slide handouts. But our first bullet here is that it shouldn't be longer than 1 page. And that is true. There are some times where that might not necessarily be true. For instance, if you're answering a supplemental question, so if you're applying for a job like for the state of Montana, for instance, then you might answer even several supplemental questions. And if it says answer those in the cover letter, then it's important that the cover letter is going to contain more than just one page. You don't have to try to cram it all in there. And I would love your feedback here. Let's see, cover letter one page unless applying for state job with specific points that need to be addressed in a cover letter. Yep, exactly. Or a U of M job. Yep. And we heard that last time too, that U of M actually encourages a longer cover letter. And that's interesting. It's nice to know a little bit about our local employers so we can give them the insider information for sure. With the supplemental questions, and tell me what your thought pattern is here. I think as far as length is concerned with those, the way I have done the cover letters with supplementals is the cover letter, the first sheet I use like a regular cover letter. And then my further sheets I use to answer my questions, and I use some kind of a heading or make it bold or italicize it or something, and copy and paste in the actual supplemental question, and then I answer that question. And I encourage people to use the STAR interview format, which the STAR interview technique will cover in interviewing, but situation, tactic, your role, or the tactics that you use, the activities and the result, to answer the supplemental questions as well. That seems to really give a nice holistic answer. We talked on Tuesday with the crew about how long we think that those should be. And my suggestion was at least a paragraph, because if you had a sentence for each one of those, it's going to be a pretty decent sized paragraph, and maybe even a whole page, but I wouldn't go longer than that. I asked management in particular that were on the call what their thought patterns were, and any managers that are on the call today too, please let us know what you think. What we heard Tuesday was that a long paragraph to a page is probably about right. And Deb said, short and concise. They're reading a lot of information, and the last thing you want to do is have them look at your supplemental questions and sigh heavy, I think. What paragraph do you put it in, up front or near the end? I put it after my regular cover letter. I would use my entire first page as a cover letter, and then the next paragraph after that. And I would start it out with a heading that said supplemental questions so that they know that's what I'm doing now. Sometimes it can be a separate document too. It just depends on how they ask. Anybody have anything to add to that thought with supplemental questions? It's going to be a quiet group. Okay, next bullet. Type, not handwritten. Yeah. That's to me a given, but not necessarily. The beginning of the pandemic back last spring, I had a gal that said she needed help with her resume. And I said, do you have, she said she had an old one, she needed it updated. And I said, sure, do you have an electronic version? She said she did not, but that she could drop it off. So we had her drop it off in our Dropbox. And what she dropped off was a yellow legal sheet of paper that she had handwritten her resume on. And so maybe I should have mentioned that last week as well. I think all resumes and cover letters should be typed, not handwritten. Yeah. Business letter format, which will be in just a couple of slides. We'll go over each and every step of that, but we want to make sure it looks nice and professional. Business letter format is going to be the best way to get that done. Well written. What our clients need to understand is that this is how we're going to showcase that we have communication skills and that we are professional. They need to make sure that they're not using text lingo, that they're capitalizing properly. The word I should always be capitalized if it's a word. They need to use full sentences. It's amazing how many of those you'll see that aren't. And so they need, and if they run it through Grammarly, it should catch all of those things and let them know as well. So that's a plus. We need to make them interesting. Employers are totally thinking about the person behind the resume at this point, and your cover letter is what gets us to be able to show them the person behind the resume. So we want to be interesting, not to the point where we're giving them information that's not applicable, but we want to put in a little bit of our personality as we're writing a cover letter. They are hiring people, interesting people, not just GPAs. Needs to be perfect. Yep, absolutely. No spelling, no grammar, no typographical errors. Yep, absolutely. Addressed by name to the right person. That's one that we see wrong a lot. We don't want to just put Walmart, we want to make sure that we put to the hiring manager. If we know the person's name, that is definitely the best case scenario. That's one of the things that we can offer up as our services. We can help them to find out who that right person is. They can also call. A business is not going to be upset at all by taking a phone call that says, I see you're hiring, I'm interested in applying. Can you tell me who the hiring manager is? They're going to get that information out at the ready. They'll probably even give you their email so you can say thank you afterwards. I had a job seeker drop off a resume written on elementary school wide paper, brown paper, and she'd used 3 different crayon colors to highlight her experience. Oh, wow. We do have a few local employers who require handwritten cover letter. Oh, and we heard that one too, to make sure that their handwriting is legible. And that's actually pretty smart, I think. Yeah, obviously follow directions. Obviously, whatever they say. How should you address it when the employer uses a hiring committee? You can say the hiring team, yep, or a hiring committee. And if you aren't sure, HR, hiring committee, hiring manager, any of those things will work, dear recruiter. Anything like that is better than to whom it may concern. Or dear sir or madam. We do not want to see that on there. That's outdated for sure. Kindergarten teacher resumes with crayons. Targeted to the job that you want. Just like the resume, we have to make sure that we are using those keywords from that job description. And somebody asked last week if a cover letter was put through ATS. So I did some research, and what I found was that it is, but only if when you're applying through that online portal, if it says you have to have a cover letter and it says click here to upload your cover letter. So if they know they're looking for a cover letter and they're asking for it, yes. If it's asking, okay, upload your resume, and then the next thing says, click here if you want to upload another document. And maybe that's your transcript. Maybe it's a cover letter, maybe it's whatever, then it's not going to be ran through ATS. So if it's specifically asking for a cover letter and they're using ATS, it probably will be. And it says it will be coding it with the job description, which I guess makes sense because that's really all they have to work with. So depending, but keywords don't hurt anyway, because that's what the employer is using to tell us what they want. So use their words and then it tells them very easily what they want. And I did have someone from a different office share with me, and I haven't included it in this presentation, but I certainly will. Just like any of your other suggestions and recommendations that you're making in that survey that's out there, that information I am tracking every single comment. Let me tell you, your opinion matters, and we'll look them all over and decide what's going to make a wonderful package deal for everyone across the state. But what they shared was something called the T letter. And it's like a cover letter, but you literally take the words right out of the job description, and the employer said, we need this. And you say, you said you need this, and I do this. I'm able to provide that. And what a wonderful way for us to be able to directly relate to what the employer said they need. If they see, I see you say that you need this, and we have this, and they still say, wow, you're not the right person. That's tough. And of course, signed. If it's an electronic version, you don't need to worry about signing it. But if you're handing it in person, you always need to have enough space there to sign your name. 4 lines is what it is. Here's your business letter template. So this is what it should look like. Let me point out, I encourage clients to use the same header, the same contact information that they used on their resume, so that it all matches. And that same thing I would say would work really well for your reference sheet. So if you're going to have a list of references, have your name at the top, just like you did on your resume and your cover letter, so they all match. If you have it at the top, like it is here, you don't need these first 3 lines of text over here. That information would only be there if it's not in the letterhead. You don't want to duplicate it. The next thing is going to be the date, and we want to make sure that that date is current. What we see happen a lot is that folks will create a cover letter, which is sort of their master cover letter, if you will, which is great because that's what we're working on. Is we'll start somewhere and then we can tweak it every time. But if you come in and you go to tweak your cover letter that you wrote 6 months ago, but you forget to change the date, that's not going to look very professional that you're sending something that says January and here it is in July. So I will teach you today, and I teach job seekers how to insert the date in Word and have it update automatically, so that when you come into the cover letter, it'll automatically put in that new today's date. So we'll do that. The next section is going to be the business name. So this is the hiring manager's name, their title, the business itself's name, their street address, and the city, state, and zip. And then a couple extra spaces, again, like we did, I didn't mention it, but between the date. Then we have our greeting, and it should be professional, dear whoever, not to whom it may concern. Then we have our 3 paragraphs that we talk separately on the next slides about each paragraph. And close with stating the main points of the letter, and then your salutation, which should be, again, professional, 4 spaces to sign, and your type name. Thoughts, questions, chats? No, nothing. Okay. First paragraph should include the reason you're writing the letter. So generally speaking, it's going to be your interest. Your interest, how did you find out about the job, and why? Why do you want to apply for the job? I like to remind people that no matter where you're applying for a job, and even if it's somewhere that's not real prestigious or somewhere that you had really dreamed of working, you have to remember that that manager, that hiring person on the other side of the table, they like their job and they like working there and they're proud of where they work. So you need to tell them why you want to be a part of that team and why would they benefit from having you on board. These little excerpts I just took out of an old training that we had, and I'm totally open to changing these. So let me know if you think that you have a better case scenario for these, and we'll change it up. But I wanted something in here. So, dear Mr. Smithers, recently I learned through the Job Service Workforce Center here in any town of the expansion of your company sales operations and your plan to create a new position for sales director. I would appreciate your considering me for the new position. Second paragraph, oh, if street address isn't used, just the city, state on a resume, what then on the cover letter? On, you mean for the employer? You still don't have to have your street address on the cover letter. You can leave it just like it was. There, I think from what the research that I've read recently and why they've taken that off of there is because everybody is contacting people via phone and by email. And the street address is not something they need. They aren't going to send you a letter anymore. So city state is just fine. Yeah, Lisa says she likes both with just city state. Yeah. But I do think that on the employer for a business format, I think you need to put the entire address. I'm not sure you'd be counted down for it though. I don't know. What do you all think? Think for the employer's address, we need it? We can Google most employers' addresses. Yeah, I mean, we can get the address easy enough. Yes, for the employer, we need it. Okay. Definitely share your opinions there. Second paragraph, highlight your job qualifications. Second paragraph is really the meat of our cover letter. This is where we get to really tell why we shine and why they should pick us. So our qualifications, our skills, but make sure you're aligning those skills with their business needs. And you're not just saying the same skills that you put in your resume. They have eyes, they already read your resume or they're going to read it. They don't want to read the same stuff. So we have to make sure that we say, oh, and you said you needed this. Let me tell you about that. Mention what you don't know. Now, you don't have to do this part, but if they have something in their job description that says they want you to be able to use Photoshop and you don't know how to use Photoshop, it's okay for you to say, or like QuickBooks, that's a big one. You aren't going to know how to do QuickBooks unless you're using it, and you don't. How are you going to buy it just to learn it for this one job interview? That doesn't mean you can't learn it though. So this is where you can say, I haven't used QuickBooks in 5 years, but I'm very confident that I can learn to use whatever version your office is currently using. Something that you let them know you're a quick learner. You let them know that you're not afraid of it. Of course, talk about the business, make sure that they know why you want to work there. Mention their products or services in a positive light. Of course, make it a positive light. But this is where we need to do our research. We need to look at that business, look at that organization, look at their website, their Facebook page, and of course, tell them how they're going to benefit from hiring you, not the other way around. So don't concentrate on your needs, concentrate on theirs, and that'll be great. I think it looks better with a full address for the business. I agree. And then they have the keywords for ATS. Yep. How do you do the address for the state? Business that HR is out of the home address, but you are applying for a local position. I know I personally put the state address. I put whatever's on the job description. That's how I've done that. Carol says use the local address.
Karen, this is Beth. I agree with Carol.
Local office.
Yeah. Especially if you know what you're applying for and where it's located at. So
Sure.
you're not just applying for State of Montana Human Resource Department, unless that's the position, it's in Human Resources.
Exactly.
But if you're applying for, the human rights investigator, again, going off the job description, you know where you're applying, so Google will help get you that local address and probably even tell you who at least the manager is. You can assume they're part of the hiring team. Again, from the hiring panel perspective, I'm looking to see, did somebody take the extra 2 seconds to do a little research to find out as much as they could about where they're applying? And
yes, and ultimately, ultimately our goal would be to get that cover letter and resume in front of that person, not HR and Helena. Yeah, because they're going to be the ones making the final decision. Yeah. Yep. All right. Worthy of adding to the presentation. And I love that it's in the chat because I won't forget that and I'll make sure that it gets added. Otherwise, I got to make a note and then sometimes I can't read it later. That's all exciting and interesting. Okay, so the little snippet, a background in cosmetic sales, store management in the owner's absence, community fundraising, and organizing special community projects has prepared me for this position. I believe I would be able to effectively manage the store and have several ideas of ways to increase creative passions, visibility in the community. So that's telling them how you're going to benefit them. The third paragraph, we're buttoning it up. So this is where we get to tell them, I did enclose my resume, my transcripts, whatever. Offer other information if you didn't. If you know that, maybe you say in there that as a recent college graduate, you might be interested in seeing my transcripts. I would be happy to provide those for you. Or I recently became OSHA certified and I'd be happy to share that certification with you. This is the correct information on one of the job posting sites. Yep. That's true because they have that number in case you have any questions. Yeah, interesting. They never have the local information on there. Yep, that's standard. Answer all the questions you think that they might have and one wonderful one, especially if you're working with a job seeker that is not currently working, a positive spin on that is that they're available right away. So they can mention that if they want to. Indicate that you hope to interview for a position, and not only indicate it, but do it in an assertive way so that you are asking them to ask you for a personal interview. And thank them for a timely response to your application. Thanking them for their time is really important as well. So job seekers will need to do a little research when doing a cover letter. Yeah, a lot of research really for all kinds of reasons. Enclosed, please find my resume, which highlights my training and experience. I would be happy to send you any other information that you might need in order to consider me for your opening. I would appreciate the opportunity to meet with you to discuss how my skills can be used by Creative Fashions. I like that wording. My telephone number is blah, blah, blah. Thank you for your consideration for this opening. Here is a bad example. And this was just a graphic I found online, and we can certainly create our own and put it in here too if we all think that would be a good idea. These little call outs really do talk about most of the things that we need to mention here that are important that people avoid. So the first one, missing contact information. So we have Peter's name and address. Notice it's not on a pretty letterhead, but at least it's there. And we know it's who wrote it because it's down here, but we don't have who he's sending it to at all. And then he also put in there just to whom it may concern. So nothing special or to anybody in particular. The next line, enclosed is my CV for the job at your company. So nothing specific about what the position is. It should be calling it by name, whatever their position title was that's available. And by the way, you could also put the position number if it's on the posting. You could put the job posting number on your cover letter as well. And the company itself should be listed. I think job seekers should be doing research about every position and employer to which they're applying. I agree, Angie. Whether or not they require a cover letter. Yep. Prepping for the interview. Absolutely. And let's see what else. Oh, our spelling. So that next paragraph, we have, I would like to start working in retail. Up until now, I've mainly worked in hospitality jobs such as McDonald's and Pizza Hut. I don't particularly like that type of work, and I'm looking to move into a new industry. Don't be negative at all. So we don't want to say anything negative about any of the other jobs that they've had or will have. You can see from my CV that I have a degree in English literature. Well, first of all, you didn't spell degree right. And what they mention is you don't need to mention the information if it's not relevant to that position. We don't really know what the position is here, but he said he wants to work in retail. So I'm guessing that's what that is. At McDonald's, I learned to serve customers, and I'm sure that that would be useful at your company. I haven't been to one of your stores yet, and I know I'm not tailor-made for this job. Again, negativity, and you don't want to point out that you don't know anything about the job, but I'm really motivated to find a new job. And I would be grateful if you would interview me. Never say you don't know much about the company. Do your research. Yeah, not a great example. Uni, yeah. University, yeah, yep, yeah, exactly. That's slang or an abbreviation of some sort. Obviously, this came from the UK, I think. One of the things I will point out about this, and so probably worthy of changing this screen up, it does say the cover letter should be between 200 and 250 words in length. And the research that I found says somewhere between 250 and 400. I think as long as it fits on a page, but you also don't want to be overwhelming on the page. You don't want it to be wall-to-wall words, and that's too much. So somewhere in between. It's not about word count as much as it is making sure that you've given them all the information they need and not overwhelm them, I think. Use your cover letter as an opportunity to highlight your skills for the relevant role. Yeah. 5 of the biggest mistakes, Brits, getting the address line wrong. Like, I mean, obviously your own should be right as well, but the employers, if you're looking it up online, if you're putting an address line from a building that they moved away from 3 years ago, they're going to know that, and they're going to realize that you don't know that they've moved, and none of that's going to make you look good or professional. So make sure you get that information right. And you can call. You can call and ask. It's not like it's a secret or they're going to hide it from you. And we can help our clients in that way. Telling the company what they can do for you. A lot of folks do that. They focus on what they want instead of how we're going to help that employer. Always, always need to keep the employer at top of mind, their needs. It's hard not to restate the content of your resume, especially when we worked so hard to make sure that we've matched everything that was in the job description to the resume. But we really do need to come up with new information. And even if it's a similar skill, find a new way to tell them how you're awesome at it. We don't want to just restate everything that we put in the resume, and definitely not copying and pasting information, which I've seen people do. I like this one. Don't want to start every sentence with I. I can't even believe how many times I do that. What I suggest for folks is get words on paper, because that's the hardest part, is to kind of build what those paragraphs are going to be and what you're going to say. After you get it written, go back and with a different colored pen or whatever, circle all of the sentences that start with I, and then go back and see if you can reword them. It doesn't mean that what you're saying isn't worthy and wonderful and need to be there, but can you word it in a way that doesn't always start with I did, I did, I did, I did. Find to start that way to start your brain thinking, but then consider just rewording. Was there a comment? Let's see, in the address. Oh, was it in the address? Asking the employer to call you at their convenience. And we need to be insistent that they're calling us in a specific period of time to try to bring it into being important and being assertive with it, not just whenever they decide to call you. And a lot of people will put that at your convenience. And here's a good example. So we've got our contact information. We've got the employer's contact information. We have Dear Mr. Wong, the employer. We have the position title. Very direct reason why we want to be picked for the position. Top-notch sales skills are a must in a fast-paced world of retail, and I pride myself as a very effective salesperson. No. I do like using bullets, especially if you feel like your cover letter is getting really wordy. Bullets are a good way to just make it more legible, easier to read. Matching your skills with the job itself. I'm a good match for your job because I understand homeowners and their needs and desires. I also have a diploma in design and decorating from Swinburne University, not just the uni this time. And showing interest in the company. And that's where we did the research. Clark Limited has been of interest to me since embarking on its mega store approach in retail. This is ideal for the 21st century. And when you talk them up, boy, they like hearing that. They like being talked up. And then you have a call for action. Thank you for considering my application. I look forward to hearing from you. I think our clients really need to see some good examples. And for that reason, I was really thrilled that the one of the offices shared with me some cover letter examples, and they're just wonderful, which is what I shared with you. So before we get started, I'll show you those to you real quick. I think they're in a PDF. There they are. I'll bring those over here for you. There we go. This first page, let me see if I can make it a little bigger so maybe you can see parts. This first page over here, oh, that was interesting. We're back to the presentation. There. This first page you can see on the left here, there's just kind of a template that tells you what to write in each paragraph, which I really, really like. I think that'll be very helpful for clients to be able to read that. Okay, state my reason for writing. Yep. Name the specific position and the type of work for which you're applying. Mention how you learned about the opening. All those things that we said that we needed to do. Each one of those paragraphs is clearly laid out there. And then we just have pages and pages of great resources of examples. And I think that's really helpful for clients to be able to see how somebody else wrote it, how theirs looks, and then just kind of try to pull different words and verbiages and ideas from these different options. So there you go. This ends up being a 4-page document, but it's got 2 on each page. So it's a lot of great examples there for our clients. Job seekers feel that they are assertive, it can be perceived as being pushy. It depends on how they do it. Yeah, they have to do it in a way that's, let's see if we can read some of these. I'm looking forward to discussing my application with you further. I'm thrilled with the opportunity. Please contact me at phone number via email, and should you select my application, thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to hearing from you. May we meet to discuss the value I would add to the organization. I may be reached at. I like that one. Oh, where'd it go? I would very much like to speak with you directly to discuss how together we can further my goals and the goals and objectives of your business. I don't think any of these seem pushy. What are you all thinking? Redundancy, talking a lot, but having nothing to say, trying to fill up space. Yeah, we don't want that. That's true, Lisa. Good HR knows how to profile and read through and around the lines. Yeah, don't just put stuff in for the sake of filling lines. That is very true. So I think those examples are great. In a panel job interview I did in the past, the person who addressed the questions like she had the job and got the job. And she did get the job. It does kind of pay to take that stance. I had somebody ask me one time a question that I can't remember how they had it worded, but it was in a way that seemed like it was a given that they would get the job. I can't remember how that worked. It was something about future evaluations or something like that, that gave it a spin like, oh, you're already evaluating my progress? Well, I must be doing pretty well then. Okay, so what we do with getting started with the resume or with the cover letter, we take our resume document that we had worked on. So I mentioned last week when we did resume building, I usually follow that up with the resume writing class, which is the hands-on in the computer lab where they actually learn to type the information into the document. And so I want to show you kind of the tail end of that class and then how that would lead into this class with the cover letter. So if you'll go to your meeting invite, and in the attachments in the meeting invite, you should have, come on over here so I can show everyone. Come with me. There you go. You should have the sample resume to play. So go ahead and open that document. I think this will work better than on Tuesday. We had it in the chat and everybody was playing with the same version, so that was hard. And what we want to do, the first thing that we do in the resume class with this document, the idea that why we're playing with this document, I've mentioned before that we don't want to use templates because templates are just not ATS friendly. And as long as you convert that Word template into a plain text document before you send it, it should be fairly okay in the world of ATS. It's still not perfect, but it'll be much, much better if you do convert it to a plain text. However, instead of a template, what you could use, this is not a template. I created this from a blank document, although you could give it to your client and they could certainly fill in those holes and use it sort of like a template. But here I've used the headings, which is a part of Word. So in this home tab, you can see these styles up here. So this is styled as a title. This is styled as heading 1. This is heading 2. This is regular text. So one way that you can really make a resume stand out and kind of look like it's your own deal is if you change the design, the theme, the colors, and the font. That way it doesn't look like every other template that somebody else downloaded from Word. It looks like your own, but at the same time, it adheres to all of the rules and the needs of ATS. And we would still want to convert this to plain text as well. You always want to do that piece. But what I have clients do is to just change up the style. We're going to start at the design tab at the top. Was everybody able to go ahead and get in there and get your, we all got that okay? Okay. Perfect. So scream and yell if I go too fast or if you're not able to get in there or something. We're going to go to the design tab at the top. The themes is the first thing, and it's over here on the far left. It's a button called themes. And if you click that, you'll see you have lots of options. And if you hover over those, you'll see the changes. Each theme comes with a different color, a different font, different spacing, and maybe even different headings. Like this heading might look different, and I'll show you what I mean by that when we get that far. But go ahead and hover over those and see what you think. Don't get too caught up in the color and the font because we can change those. I tend to usually go slice or ion, but I did something different last time just for the fun of it. Maybe I will this time too. And of course, anytime you see a bar with the arrows, it means you have more options, so you can scroll down for more options. Paper trail. I'm going to choose parcel. Now, what I have them do in the class, Angie asked if they're all ATS friendly. Headings and titles are ATS friendly because all Word has done is just make them bigger, badder, bold, and colored. So yes, they are ATS friendly. However, you would still want to change it to plain text. And that's because with ATS, like it doesn't like bullets. So what plain text does is it converts bullets into asterisks, which ATS does like. It doesn't like tables. It could leave out all of the data in a table. It really doesn't like tables. So if you convert it to plain text, it just converts it to just data. But yes, it likes these headings fine. So what was I going to pick? I don't know. Partial. When I pick one, notice it has a little name under it. I had them write that down on their sheet of paper. So they're going to write down in the sheet they get with the resume writing has a spot for it. So they're going to write down partial. After they pick that, did everybody get one of those picked okay? Okay. After we pick that, we're going to look through these. These are little style sets. And what it boils down to is that your title, if you had chose the title option in there, is going to look like this, where it says title, title, title. They're each going to look a hair different. Your heading 1 is going to look a little different. Heading 2s are going to look a little different. So we're going to scroll over those and see if we like one. Also, you have more options. You can click this little arrow to go down to the next row. I really like that one for a resume. I think it just looks great with the big bold color. It gives your resume some color, but in a professional way, and ATS likes it. But I'll choose something different because I choose that all the time. Oh, Courtney says wait. ATS can handle white font. ATS does recognize white font, but I'll tell you what, ATS also knows that if you put things in white font that you're trying to be sneaky. And some ATS systems, it says, will kick your application out entirely and won't even send you on to the recruiter because of it, because they look at it like it's underhanded.
Okay, so that little bar of color though, with your address and stuff in white on those examples, that's what I was worried about.
This
Where it
stuff?
says, yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, will it see it?
It might see it and it might recognize it as not being a good thing. I'm not sure, but I got to throw out there, if you are going to change this into plain text, it would not be in white font anymore.
Good
Which
point.
That's what you should always be doing, is converting it to plain text before you upload it. Yep. That's why when I tell them when we're working on the color scheme and format and all of that, this is really for if you're printing it and handing it to someone, or this is the version that you're going to email and they're going to print. This is the one you're wowing someone. Before you upload it for ATS to scan, it's always going to be in plain text and it's going to be converted to boring. And by the way, I totally encourage you to do that. Convert it to plain text and see what you see. Open it up in the plain text document, see how different it is. It's kind of entertaining. We played with a lot of them on Tuesday afternoon. So when we hover over these and we find one we like, I also really like the one that brings in a line underneath my contact information. Let's see if I can find that one. Oh, got it. Okay. Nope. Maybe it's just the one that I chose this time. There it is. Kind of separates your contact information, but however, whatever. Once you pick a style, you can go to your colors button over here to the right of the styles, and you can change up your colors. Now, I do suggest to people, we want ours, and mine doesn't seem to want to show me a preview, but if I click back into my document and do it again, it will, I think. There we go. You want to pick something that's professional. It's okay to have it stand out, but we don't want it to be probably fuchsia or something crazy. I tend to stick with brown or blue or green, kind of a dark color that's going to print okay. I go with blue warm a lot. But you can go through those and see if you find one that you like. We'll do that one. We'll do brown today. And then you can change your fonts as well. Now, keep in mind, there are only a limited amount of fonts that ATS likes too. That was in that handout from last week with the ATS tips. And I think there's 10 that every ATS approves of. And by the way, when you convert from Word to a plain text document, the font that plain text automatically chooses is not ATS approved. So if you want to be successful, you want to convert whatever Word doc you have to a plain text, then go back into the plain text and change the font to one that is approved. And there's a list, but I usually just change it to Arial because it's at the top of the alphabet and it's easy for me to remember that that's one that likes. But here we're doing it for the idea that it's wow factor. We want that person to like our resume. We're going to print it, have it look just like we want. So you can pick a different font. If you click the font button, these options, what it's showing us is that, like, here's our aerial options. The big one is how your title's going to look. The smaller one here is going to be how your headings are going to look. And the little one is how your text is going to look. So you can scroll through those as well. Pick one. I tend to go for Gill Sans. I think it's very easy to read. But I kind of like that bold one. It's good too. There. My name. Looks like I'm yelling at it. Now, once we get all of that done, did everybody get the, you kind of came up with a good look at the top there? We all kind of like that, whatever we got. That's what we do in the resume section. We have them pick which options they had and write them down. So they wrote down the theme, they wrote down the style, and if you kind of hover over these styles up here and just stop your cursor, it'll tell you what it's called. So line simple. And then the color, I could go down and, okay, I picked aspect, the font, write down what you did. Then when they go into a blank document to write their resume, they can choose all of those options right off the bat, and it's going to look just like this looks. But what we're going to do with cover letters, we want to now delete all of the information in the resume except for the contact information. So we're going to go to the bottom of the document. You could scroll, but you can also do Control End. So Control and End, not end like the letter, but end over here on your keypad. Control N opens a new document. And then just select all the text. So left click and hold, drag it all the way up, but come back down because we don't want to get rid of the contact information. Delete that out of there with your delete key. And then my cursor's up there by phone number, so I'm going to hit enter to bring me down to the next line. And then I just want to make sure that I have normal text here. So if I go back to my home tab, I can see that I have normal text. And the first thing that we wanted to add, we don't need our name and address because we have it up there, but we want that date. So I want to show you how to do that. That's in the insert tab at the top. Oh, we have a question. Hang on. If you were applying at Home Depot, you might want to use orange for your head. Yeah, someone mentioned that. What a great idea. Use the company colors. That's a really, really great idea for the resume and the cover letter. Yeah. What is the perk of having them do this? The wow factor, if most professions nowadays want you to submit electronically, plain text, or am I missing something? So Caitlin, my theory here is even if you don't have an option of handing it to them, we always want to suggest that they bring their resume to the interview. So if you're bringing your resume to the interview, are you bringing the plain text version? Probably not. That's what I think is the wham factor there. So the date, insert tab at the top, and then over on the right-hand side, you see the text section down here. It says text. There's a button called date and time. So click that little button, the date and time button. And the formatting of the date is important on your cover letter. We want it to be the month spelled out. So April, space, the number of the day, comma, space, the year. So it's this third one down is the one we want for a cover letter. And then you want to make sure this little box that says update automatically is checked so that every time you open the document, it's going to automatically update that date. So just click OK. Okay, now we got that. Everybody get that one okay? I don't see any hands raised or shaking heads. So we'll hit enter there so that we can come down a line. And when you're done with your cover letter, you might even come in and change some spacing around, but I always like to write it first to make sure I have room. Here we're going to put in the business name. And for our sake today, you could just put, John Smith, or you can put first name, last name, whatever you want. Just type something in there so we have all the lines to work with. So I'm going to put first name. And then hit enter, and that title. His name. Address. City, state. Okay, 59445. Yep, one too many. Okay. And then we can hit enter and do our greeting. Dear first, last. And we can
So
put
you-
little like,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry, Karen. So you would say dear Karen Vanny and versus Ms. Vanny, or that seems odd to say dear,
Yeah, you're
you
right.
know,
I think
the
I
first
would
and last
probably
name.
put, yeah, probably Ms. Although you'd want to make sure that you get it right. And
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know anymore. I mean, there's some pretty funky names out there.
True.
Yeah. And a lot of people have, like names like Taylor that it could be either. Yeah. So I think I would be careful with that. I would rather use first name, last name and not have that part wrong. It would depend. What I want to show you, and you can put yourself some extra spaces in here if you want, but in particular, I want to show you how to skinny this up. Clients will very often have a problem with that. So notice there's a little extra space between each line. That's because Microsoft Word thinks every time you hit enter, you want to start a new paragraph. And for readability's sake, Microsoft Word says, we'll just give you a little extra space between the lines if you're starting a new paragraph. And when you're reading a document, it does help. It makes it look better. But when you have your address line, it makes it look funky. So to put all of those together, to squish those together, we just select the text that is the problem child. So I'm going to do a left click and hold to select that text. And then we're looking for a button on the home tab. It's in the paragraph section. And it's this little corner button over here on the right-hand side of the paragraph section. We click that little guy. It's called paragraph settings. And we want to check this little box down here. So it's in the spacing section of the indents and spacing tab. And it says, do not add space between paragraphs of the same style. Check that box and click OK. Then you can decide if you want another little space up here between that, maybe even between that. There you go. It's gorgeous.
Karen, did you know that you can hold shift and enter when you do your spaces and it'll not allow that extra space?
When you hit, yes, is it shift or is it alt? I knew that there was a way.
Shift. Yep. Shift and enter, and then it doesn't give you that extra space.
Cool. And I think that's super helpful for us, but I think our clients, that would be a bit too presumptive of us to assume that they, probably good to know how to fix it too. Yeah, but I could totally use that. That's quick and easy. Now, I think all we did was just remove it. That way we have our header that looks beautiful. And, oh, I went the wrong direction, sorry. And then I show them how to do the today's date. In this presentation, if you're doing it in a computer lab, it's up on the screen and they're doing the work here. And it says right here in this little black arrow how they can get to that updated date. Insert tab, the text section, date and time button, make sure you click that box. And then we just format it like that. And don't forget to spell check, super duper important. Have a read it out loud. That makes a huge difference when you read it and you can tell that something just doesn't sound quite right. And there you go. So what do we have here? Let's see, what is the perk of having, oh, plain text. That was that same question. How about questions, comments, thoughts?
I have a quick question. My brother is getting ready to graduate from college, and about 2 years ago, he got into some legal problems. I looked up his name to see what would come up, and sure enough, the first thing on there is like the legal issue. So, what can he do? Like, should he try to address it before like